Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hi, welcome to the third episode of Crafting Through It with Sara Schaefer. I'm Sara Schaefer, in case you didn't know. And it's been a good week. I'm very excited about today's craft. It's going to be interesting. As you can see, I got my hair done yesterday, and normally I say this is probably, my hair is straight once a year, if that. So it's a special day, it's a straight hair day. Trying to get my color back to what my natural color is. I'm not naturally a redhead per se, although when I was like little girl, it was a little bit strawberry brown. Strawberry brown. I mean, I'm almost all gray by now. I started going gray at 29, so this is all fake. This is all just a ruse. And I actually tried to look like at one of those hair color change apps to see what I would look like with gray hair, to see if I should like just take the leap. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to go gray. It's just not quite there, And I think with curly, frizzy hair like mine, you're making a choice when you go fully gray, and it's perfectly fine. It's just, I'm not there yet. Okay. Also had a great week because I got some money that was owed to me. It was a significant amount. It was residuals for a TV show I wrote for years ago. So just a relief. When you know money, it's almost like I'd rather not know it was coming. It's a long story for another day. It's actually kind of funny what happened when I found out I was going to get the money. It was like, it felt like I won the lottery, a small, very small lottery. But then to realize I could not deposit those checks because they were made out to the wrong entity. So that's what happened. So anyway, been waiting for that money for 6 months and finally got it this week. Thank the Lord. And also randomly got a little writing gig, which is very exciting. It's just the way it's been for years now. I will be completely focused on other things in my life, and then I'll get a phone call and they'll say, hey, we have this little gig for you. So-and-so referred you for this job. Do you want to hop on the phone? It's always hopping on the phone to discuss. And by the end of the phone call, I'm literally doing the job. I've already started working. So it's like 1 hour I could be completely unemployed or just doing stuff like this, trying to hustle and self-employ myself. And the next I have a job. Now this is a very short job. But it's really cool. It's for Comic Relief. They are doing a live stand-up show in New York in a couple weeks to raise money for LA wildfire recovery. And if you've heard of Comic Relief, they put on these specials way back in the day, Billy Crystal. But they're an amazing organization, and I'm really excited to be working with them. It's a really great lineup. And I'm helping write some of the business of it, and suggesting some bits for people that are coming on and, doing little cameos and things like that. So very grateful for that work, and trying to do all this at the same time. What else? We don't need to talk about that. What's in the news, guys? Crafting news? Well, all I'm going to say is follow up on last week's discussion of Joann's, if you've seen the news, and 500 stores are closing across the country. I looked at the list. Thank God the Joann's near me are safe. However, I've been seeing some things in the Joann's Reddit that doesn't mean that the rest aren't going to shut down. They may completely shut down all stores later if they end up purchasing, I think, the remaining stores and liquidating those. So we're not out of the woods yet. A couple of the stores in Virginia are closing, and I'm going to see if I can get on down there before they close and get some deals. But it's funny because this Joann's Reddit is like dominated by Joann's employees. And I'm really seeing the drama of this whole thing happen, from the point of view of someone that works there. And I really feel for these people. But they're talking about how as soon as they announce, just people lining up at Joann's thinking they're going to get deep discounts right out the gate. It's like the store hasn't had time yet to mark things down completely. They don't understand. And I realized, I don't even understand how a liquidation goes and how clearance, going out of business sales go, what the timeline is, how things, I guess there's a tier system of when things go even deeper on discount as they're trying to clear the shelves. And so I'm going to try to be respectful to the employees and not be entitled, and realize that you know, it's a good deal for me, but it's like, it's really shitty for them. And I think people don't think about that when they're going to like a going out of business sale for a big chain. You know, even though it's a big chain and it's corporate greed that ruined it, there are real people working there. Okay, I'm trying to like kind of move quickly because I want to move on to the craft fairly quickly this time. I think my episodes are a little bit too long. I don't know, maybe they aren't, but for now, I do want to kind of condense things and get to the craft sooner. But I did want to show you my thrift store finds of the week. Got some good stuff here. First off, I found this stone bookend thing, but I thought, wow, this holds cute index cards perfectly. And now I'm like, ooh, should I make some bigger, like 5x7 cards that go in this slot back here? So yeah, I love this purple. Whoop. Scott was like, it's damaged, it's kind of fucked up. You don't want this. I'm like, it's $4. And I could probably fix it up. We'll see. Maybe I won't. If I fix it up, maybe I'll sell it. But I kind of like it myself. So yeah, I love this cute find. It fits the index cards perfectly. And always keep your eye out for cool stuff like that. I'm going to move this over here. And then I also found, I just couldn't help myself. What am I going to do with this? I don't know. But it's a pristine, intact Rolodex. Remember these? Remember when you had to look up someone's phone number? Remember that. Oh my God. It's completely intact. Not one flaw. It's just great. God, I love a Rolodex, you know? I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I have some ideas brewing in my head. But I don't know. We'll see. Are you noticing a theme? I really like office supplies. Well, that brings us to today's craft. I really want to do like transitions, like today's craft. Today's craft. I don't know. We'll do some different interstitials at some point. Oh, cute index cards got loose. Put them in their holder. All right. Okay. So today's craft, I am very excited. I am going to show you how to make your own junk journal. Now, this is a new term that I only discovered recently. It's called a junk journal. It is a journal that you it's like a cross between a scrapbook, a collage, journaling, and you just fill a journal with whatever junk, I guess, you find, old scraps, and whatever's inspiring you, you know, maybe a movie ticket. I feel like I did this growing up. I'm actually going to show you my version of a junk journal. Got it right here. So I guess growing up, I did do a junk journal. I just didn't know that's what it was called back then. I guess I called it just a journal. So here's my junk journal. Very revealing. Here we go. This is from high school. You can see I like taped, you know, any random thing in here. I wonder, oh, this is like a sample from Bath and Body Works perfume. Look at that. Oh, and like I wrote down what everything was. Wait, let's see if it still smells. This is Spray Lightly with Heartland by Gingham for a passionate take on the traditional by Bath and Body Works. Yeah, the smell is gone 30 years later. Oh, meal ticket at church camp. Gosh, we got lots of stuff in here. Me writing poetry. I guess some of this is sort of a mix of stuff from high school and like my freshman year in college. So this is right around when I was turning 18. Wow, this is some poetry. Let's read some of my poetry. I typed this one on a old school computer. The story of me. Trust me, I know the story of me. No return address. I send out little packets of love. I keep forgetting to put me on it. I forget to send it. They forget to notice. Or to tell me they don't want me. So trust me, I know. But I know something. You know something. I think we all know. Something that they don't. So they hide, we seek, but it's no game to you or me or us. And they laugh as we cut ourselves on the bushes that we think they hide behind. So we think, so in fearful youth and a cleanup kind of fashion, we scream to them as if they would understand. If we said it any louder, it's no use. So I think, and they say, sorry, but are things any better? So next time, I just won't say anything and keep me inside and pretend to forget or not to notice the return address. I think that's about unrequited love. That's probably what it is. Although no return address. Okay, now I'm starting to think some of the symbolism in that poem would be me, a sort of pattern I was in high school and through the first few years of college, because I'd never had a boyfriend. I would get a crush on a guy, and either it was unrequited, and that would like linger for years, or the guy would like me back, and as soon as he liked me back, I would get what I called the bad vibes, and I would run away. I'd be like, no, I don't want to touch you. Don't touch me. Oh, I just have to tell you, I like you, Mike. I really, really like you. Like, I like you. And he'd be like, I like you too. And I'd be like, no. I think that's what that was about. Anyways, this is crazy. I did not think I was going to be doing this 5 minutes ago. Yeah, lots of stuff in here. My best friend Courtney, little note here. Sarah, I love you. Court, good luck moving in. Write me or something soon. That's about going to college. Wow. There's so much. Why is there's a doctor's office card in here? Just little scraps, you know? Just anything. This is a junk journal. 100% a junk journal. Oh wow, tickets. Oh wow, Michael W. Smith at King's Dominion. Wow, Tori Amos. Oh my God, Tori Amos, Carpenter Center, July 24th, 1994. Life-changing concert. This is insane. Okay, we don't have time to go through all this, but this is a junk journal, okay? Now I'm going to teach you how to make your own junk journal. I'm not going to teach you how to put stuff in. No. I'm going to teach you how to make the actual notebook. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a junk journal. It could be any kind of notebook for you. It could be for writing. It could be to-do lists. It could be whatever you want. But we're going to make it all out of found materials, mostly found materials. And I'm very excited about this craft. Okay, so let me give you the example. So I had to go through a lot of prototypes to figure out how to make these. It's actually more challenging than I thought. So these, we're going to try. This is, I guess, my point here. I'm still working on perfecting this craft, so you're going to be learning along with me. These are some of the prototypes. I'm using scrap paper. I love a scrap paper. Scrap paper, different thicknesses, because, junk journal needs to have, like, if you're going to tape stuff and use collage, like, you do need kind of a thicker paper, but then sometimes maybe this is part of an envelope from a greeting card. These are, it's just, anyway, so this was my first attempt. It doesn't really close and shut very well. I put some fabric around it. You can see I fucked up the hole punches and tried it different ways. This is my second attempt. That has tax information. This is, I used scrap paper, but it was like my tax return that I printed out. I'll make sure you can't see that. See, but I'm having trouble closing. Finally, after a lot of work, I landed on this beauty. Made this from scratch. I'm really happy. It's a little, there are some imperfections, but I think I'm on the right track now. It's really beautiful. As you can see, I tried to kind of coordinate the paper, different papers from different sources. This is going to be I haven't done a journal in so long, and I think it's because I bully myself for not doing it. Like, oh, you got a new notebook and you didn't finish it. You wrote one journal entry and then you just got busy with life. And I used to journal so much, and as I get older, I don't know if that's like an age thing or technology took over my life. Cause I really can see when like I got sort of more into email, I guess, and technology, and then cell phones and social media, that journaling just became less of a thing. Maybe there was just a different output for my feelings, my thoughts and feelings. Now we just share them on a video, on a reel. So anyway, I'm going to get back into journaling. I'm going to do a junk journal, and that seems fun to me because I'm someone who like hoards little bits of pieces of paper and memories, or I'm very nostalgic. So this is going to be my new attempt at journaling. I'm going to do a junk journal. I'm joining the junk journal girlies out there. I'm very happy with how this turned out. And lots of things to learn. But I'm going to show you how to make this. Now, this is advanced because it requires a machine, which I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how to make these, but don't worry. I'm also going to show you how to make your own journal with no machines. Now, it won't look as perfect as this, but if you work really hard, you know, on being perfect, you can get it to look pretty close to a regular notebook that you would buy in the store. I'll show you how. Full disclosure, I'm going to do smaller and smaller versions of notebooks. We're going to make a bunch of notebooks today. So let's just get started. I'm so happy with how this turned out. Okay, let's go. Now, the first thing you're going to do is figure out what paper you're going to use. Now, for the one I'm going to use a machine for, the first one I'm going to make, I'm going to show you that. I'm going to do it a little bigger because the machine makes it a lot easier. And I'm going to show you some of the papers. I've already got some papers cut to the size that I want to do. This size was inspired by this old pad of paper that I found in a thrift store. An old, very old little pad of IBM things to do list. And I thought that'd be fun to include like that in this journal, along with some loose leaf that I had that I cut. Just to have some paper in it that is like not patterned and I could literally like easily write on. And then of course I've got some patterned paper I found at thrift stores to add to it. And I'm going to cut some paper just to show you how I'm going to do it. So two things you want to consider at the beginning before you start cutting and things like that. You're going to first think about your size, and that will obviously determine what size you want to cut it to. But you want to think about like your cover. What is your cover of the notebook going to be? And do you want to coordinate the papers to go with that cover to be like kind of themed? So for my cover, I'm going to do a harder cover with chipboard, which I'll show you later. But I'm going to cover it with fabric. And I have this fabric that I got at a thrift store. $4 for a huge piece of fabric. Really pretty. And I'm going to use this fabric to be on the cover. So I kind of want my paper in the thing to just vaguely go with it, you know? I want to pick things that feels like it goes together. You don't have to do that. You could just be totally random if you wanted to, but I want it to kind of aesthetically all go together. So think about your cover when you're figuring out your papers. You don't have to do fabric. You could just do plain chipboard, brown cardboard. You could do, like, I watched a video of somebody making one that they used a piece of like vegan leather to be the cover, to be more of a softback notebook. So there's lots of different options. You could use like a cereal box, literally the box of or like a thin cardboard of any kind, and you could put old wallpaper on it. I have some old wallpaper that I'm probably going to use to make some covers, or contact paper. You can do a lot of different covers. So think about that, and then you're also going to think about thickness. Now, when you use a machine, or regardless, what I've learned in the short time I've been trying to make these notebooks is measurements are going to be important. And distances from the edge and all these things make a difference in the final product. And also the thickness of your notebook makes a difference on what you're going to use to bind it. Now, for this machine, for the machine one, the first one I'm going to do, I'll show you what I'm going to use. I'll actually get it out later, but I've got 2 tools of the week this week. Basically, this is a binding machine, and I'll get to that soon. But first, we're going to cut. I'm just going to cut a few pieces of paper. So tool of the week number 1, paper cutter. One of the best purchases I've ever made. I use this paper cutter all the time for different reasons. It is so satisfying. I got it at Staples. I don't think it was too expensive. And I love using it. This is satisfying. Now it could also cut your finger off, so I want you to be careful, all right? I have come close to cutting myself on this before because I wasn't paying attention and I had my fingers here or something. This little bar here really helps you from being right on the edge like that, but you could just please be careful. Do not cut yourself on my watch, all right? So, I cut everything to the size of, I used the IBM sheet as my guide for this size, okay? But you can do whatever size you want, and you can use the guides on your, I did like this one is, the paper is A5, that's like a standard size, but the covers are a little bit bigger, but yeah, I did A5 for that. You can do whatever you want. And if you don't have a paper cutter, you can use an X-Acto knife, scissors. If you don't really care about being super precise and you're fine with a more homemade look, you can totally use scissors for this. You can measure, mark it with pencil, and do it that way. That's completely valid. But however you're gonna cut, you're gonna get your size. And I usually don't even measure. I just take a stack of the paper I'm going to use, and I line it up against the blade, which I've lifted up a little, and I move my little guy here, and I get it snug, but not too snug. Like, I don't want it to warp the paper because I want it to be there. I have to push this in so it's nice and secure, and then there. So that's gonna be my width of the paper, right? Now, I actually would recommend, you know what? You're going to do the wider cut first. When you do the wider cut first, this is what I learned from doing the index cards. When you do your wider cut first, you will have less cuts overall. I don't know if I have the capacity to explain that to you, but it's true. Wider cut first. You'll see it when I do one of the bigger pieces of paper. You'll have less cuts in the end. So I'm taking my stack here, line it up. This is about 8.5 inches. And what I do first before I cut a bunch of stuff is I'll take one piece. So let's just cut one of these just to see if we like it as a page. Now, I always make sure I'm pressing. Big tip on a paper cutter. If you find yourself cutting and it's like jagged and not doing a firm cut or not cutting all the way through, most of these, a good quality one of these self-sharpens because it's metal on metal. So when you're cutting, kind of see how I'm like pushing it up against the metal? Like, you want it really like that. That'll help you get a nice clean cut and keeps it sharp, I think. So I've cut this to the height, and I just check my first page to make sure that I've put this in the right spot. So that's nice and exact to my height here, and we'll just have to trim off the side. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to want to use these because it has this hole there. It's fine if you're, using a scrap paper, but this is all from a pad I got. I think it was on like deep clearance. And I don't even know if any of these colors work. I'll get my fabric out just to have as a reference. So I can like just make sure things coordinate and look good with the overall theme. It doesn't have to be too matchy, okay? But like this I like that look. To me, that looks good with that. So I'm gonna use that and just see if I like that. Other papers that I have, that one, oh, but that one's torn. I can't use that one, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this one. And I don't necessarily do one paper at a time, but I'll do one size at a time. Like all the papers that are this size, I'll cut, a few together at the same time. Okay, so that is my width. I keep this width and I do all my width at the same time. Or I guess this is the height on the notebook. Sorry, I'm being confusing. Okay, you know what? I need a refresher. I wish this show was sponsored by Diet Dr. Pepper or DDP. It's my favorite drink. It's probably killing me slowly from the inside, but I love it so much. It just gets me going, and it tastes great, and it's got the right kind of fizz, and I like it out of a can. And yeah, Diet Dr. Pepper, ding. Sponsor me. Okay, so what other paper do I have? I've got this. I think that would look good. It's like a belt on a piece. I got this at a thrift store, just loose. Scrapbook paper is ridiculous sometimes. Like, what is this for? What event is this celebrating? You got a belt? So let's see, which way, think about which way, you know, if your notebook, you can use, if you have a lined piece, this is helpful to get the orientation in your head when you're cutting. Do I want the belt to show? No, I think the belt is kind of dumb. I don't want the belt. I'm gonna trim this way, and we'll cut that the other way in a minute. I'm just making a pile. All right, now I'm not gonna do a ton, but I just wanna show you different sources of paper that I use. Now this is an old greeting card that is paper when you unfold it. Now I probably won't use this for this notebook because it's got these creases in it. I'll use it for smaller, but isn't that pretty? Like, this would be a great page in a notebook. So, you know, I picked these out earlier. They go with this fabric already. So this is some nice cardstock I've got. And I'm gonna do, I usually do 3 sheets at a time of this to just not get any jagged. Because if you do too thick, it can get kind of jagged cuts. Line that up. So satisfying. Yes! Okay. Set that aside. I don't know about that piece. Let's do these pieces. These look good. Now, when you have lines, oh, see, I made a mistake. Now, I wanted this to be like, now it's okay to leave it like this, but I wanted it to be more like ruled. And I can still do it, but I could get more pages out of it vertically. So just keep in mind when you're cutting your orientation on how you want the notebook to eventually look. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not mad. You're mad. You're not a perfectionist. So these, it doesn't really matter the pattern, which way it's oriented. Let's cut. Woo! I'm feeling it. Okay, now we're gonna do the other way. So see, these are all the same measurement there. And now I want the shorter side. This is, I guess, the width versus the height of the notebook. And bring that down, line it up. Line it up. I'm wondering, okay, this is a little uneven. It's okay if your pages are a little uneven. It depends on how perfectionist you want to be. So again, I always do a test before I cut a lot, because what if I accidentally got this wrong, right? So this is the height of the notebook, and now I want to cut there, just to trim. So again, you're just making sure, line it up with your others that you're using, just to make sure you're doing it the way you wanted. This is just my test. Boom. Let's test it. It's actually a little bit wide. So I am going to adjust just slightly. I'm actually going to put more paper. I mean, these are just slightly uneven. Again, notebooks and junk journal especially, you don't have to be so precise. Like when I do index cards, I try to get them super precise because there's something really satisfying about a deck of cards, or, you know, pack of cards that's like perfectly the same size. But with a notebook, because you're opening it and closing it. It doesn't have to be super. Let's see if that made a difference. Yeah, it's just gonna trim. See, just a little bit off. Now I'm gonna test it again. See if that it just, yeah, that feels great. So those kind of adjustments can make a big difference. Take the time to do it. All right, let's cut this. Get that belt out of here. Beautiful. Let's cut these. Now I can probably get 2 pages out of each sheet of these because of how big the paper is. But let's see. Oop, always make sure you're lined up square. I usually do this standing up so I can see it better, but today I'll do it sitting down. And it's good to do, that's part of why I like doing this is just like I'm standing up, I'm active. It's exercise. I'm active. Okay. I mean, it is better than sitting down, but okay. And see, this is cardstock, so this is a little thick, but like I like the variety. Your notebook can be whatever you want it to be. And that brings us to the quote of the week, which is, new notebook, new me. Have you ever bought a new notebook and thought, God, now things are really gonna change for me. Things are gonna get awesome. This notebook is gorgeous and it's clean and pristine and it's ready for me to fill it with my ideas. And I'm gonna definitely execute those ideas. I'm not gonna give up on them and just like procrastinate and just get bored and do something else with my time. No, I'm going to change my life with this new notebook. New notebook, new me. All right, I'm gonna set this all aside for now. Done with the paper cutter for now. Okay. Now the tricky but also fun part comes. We're going to cut the holes. Okay. Now, it took me a long time to figure this out, but I got myself a present. I've been wanting one of these for a long time. This is a binding machine. Okay, I'm gonna tip it up so you can see it here. All right. And this, you may have seen these or used these in an office setting before. I actually was first acquainted with the binding machine years and years ago. It was the year 2000. In 2001, I lived in New Orleans right out of college, and I had an office job, and now you're gonna find out I've always been this way, where I like to use scraps of paper to create new things out of them. I don't know what it is, my fixation on it. I used to make notebooks back in that job at New Orleans. It was called a comb binding machine. It was one of those, if you've ever held like a booklet or a pamphlet or whatever, and it may be like a presentation at work or a report, it's that plastic comb that goes through the holes. And I used to make my own notebooks back then out of old paper from the office. And I would take the paper and I would cut it. And they were really like uneven and stuff, but I was like super into it. And I would use those as like my, to-do list notebook. I love a to-do list. I always have a notebook, multiple notebooks for different purposes. So new notebook, new me. There's been a lot of new me's over the years, probably over 100 if we're going by notebooks. Okay, so these are a little bit tricky to learn. So I'm assuming most people watching this don't have one of these, so I'm just gonna go through it kind of quickly. And so the first step when using this, so it's 2 steps. You use this to cut the holes, and you put your paper in there. And then this thing up here, you'll see it goes down. This binds your notebook. Now there's 3 different kinds of these. There's the plastic comb binder. There is the spiral notebook, your classic spiral notebook. And then there's something called wire O or something. It's this. It's what I used on this. It's when you see these when the notebook has 2 wires going like close together. And I'll show you what they look like before you do it. So it's like that, and when you put it in with your paper on it, this just presses it and it cinches it. It like makes it into a notebook. Okay, let's do this. So, excuse me. Diet Dr. Pepper. That burp was brought to you by Diet Dr. Pepper. Ding. All right. So what we're going to do is cut the holes. Now, this is a little tricky if you're using one of these machines. I'm not going to spend a ton of time explaining the minutia of this machine. There are videos of people using it, especially the Make Easy specifically one, but this didn't come with great instructions, so it's a little bit of trial and error. What I do recommend is always starting with a practice sheet, okay, to make sure that your alignment is correct here. I'm going to turn this way and hopefully you can see down. So it's got all these little squares. Those are holes. Those are going to be where your holes are, okay, when you push it in there. That's the alignment. And you want to make sure that you've got the proper distance on your top and bottom, okay, from the edge of the paper, because you don't want it to be like where half a hole is here, okay? But you also have to figure out at this point how far away you want the hole to be from the side of the bit. So the margin, you want to know what the margin is going to be. This takes some trial and error. That's why I say do some practice sheets first. We'll do a piece of cardstock because it'll cut really nice. And so I see a line of text here. I'm using that to kind of make sure that this paper is straight. So now I've got it, I think, lined up the way I want. Good enough. We'll do our best. All right, so I'm gonna cut, this machine can do 15 pages of regular paper. Let's try. Okay, we did it. Might want to go with less paper if it's that hard, but look, there you go. So now we just get into the process of cutting this paper. All right, I'm gonna do a little less this time. Again, lining it up. I clip on this side just to keep it where I want it. Now we're gonna work on the cover. Got the papers cut. And I always kind of try to check, can I see light through the holes? That means I've done a pretty good job of evenly cutting this because I've got my paper even and the holes are pretty lined up. So I'm gonna move this for now. So first what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get chipboard. Got a piece here. This I bought, I actually bought the Cricut like specific chipboard. It comes in packs. See, this is what I buy. All right, so I'm gonna cut this with my paper cutter. Now, my paper cutter just barely can do this. Okay, let's not have a machete cut my face, all right. Now here's the trick with this. Because of the wire binding, the pages will they're sitting in a curved shape. So you need to account for the paper sort of coming out further on that curve. So you need your cover to be a little bit bigger than the paper. I would say do a 1/2 inch bigger. And I do the height this exact same because I just think that that looks nice. So this was my width, all right? Right, yeah, so I want my width to be a 1/2 inch longer than the paper. So I'm gonna move this about a 1/2 inch. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to allow for some distance there. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, and I'm gonna give this a cut. Now this is where I think you're gonna test your paper cutter. You gotta use some force there. Otherwise you can use a utility knife or whatever with a ruler. So now let's just check So I've got about a 1/2 inch, because it's gonna move out like this when it's on the ring. You could probably do it a little bit smaller than that, but you just want some extra room. All right, so that is one piece. I am gonna need another piece. I knew it. Okay. When you do these big shapes, bigger notebooks, but always save your extra pieces because you can use it for other stuff for sure. Okay. All right. Got these 2 pieces, and I am going to cut it to be the exact height. So all I do is I just use a pencil. We don't need to go crazy here. Pencil. Okay. And I'm actually just, no, yeah, I'm gonna eyeball it, because, there we go. Let me just check. Don't want the paper to be bigger than the cover. That would be annoying. No, we're good to go. Okay. And I want the other piece to be the same. So I'm just gonna draw another line. Do another cut. Draw another line. Do another cut. Make a book tonight. Make a book tonight. We're going to descend into madness together. Okay, lining them up, looks good. Now, I did a lot of experimentation on how to do this next part. Now you could put fabric, like I said, fabric on this. You could leave it plain. You could cut a little curve here if you want it to be rounded. There's so many things you can do to customize your cover. You could draw on this, stamps, paint, anything. I'm gonna do fabric, okay, so. All right. Should have pre-cut this, but shoulda, coulda, woulda. I'm just gonna really just do a loose eyeball here and do a rough cut. And then we'll get a little more precise. Ooh, this is a terrible, terrible angle. What is my problem? I'm just being impatient. Do you ever do that where you're like crafting, you're like, this is not how I should be doing this, but I really don't have time to do it correctly? And that's what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got my rough cut here. Now, if you want to be really precise, this is what I do. Okay, because what I'm going to do is, this is just to show you, I found that it was easier, much easier to get precision punches and looked neater with no like threads coming out if I actually had the chipboard exposed at the binding. So what I want to do is make sure I cut this to be the size I want. Now this already has sort of a sewn edge, so I'm just going to use that edge and like envision like where am I going to have this on the board. You could have it just, I'm going to put ribbon over it, but so I'm going to just flip it. Again, this doesn't have to be exact, but if you want it to be, you can literally use one of these bad boys. And I'm going to do 3/4 of an inch. Just line it up, and then I'm going to use this puppy, my little rotary cutter. Again, you can totally just eyeball it and use scissors. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to cover it anyway. You'll see. Okay. But I do find that when I have straight cuts, it just makes it easier for me to get a flat result. Okay. And then 3/4 of an inch up here. Do not cut your finger off. That's going to be the quote of the week next week. Do not cut your finger off. Now I've got this. So now we're going to glue. All right. I'm putting the first side up. I experimented with different glues, and this was the one that I ended up liking the best. I have so many different types of glue. It's disturbing. And I did buy a new type for this project. It wasn't that expensive. And I'll use it. This is called pH neutral PVA. It's specifically ideal for bookbinding and paper projects. And I did like it. It's like thinner and it's easier to spread out and get, because you want this to be very thin a layer, because you don't want like this, for instance. This, see these streaks? This was from me putting way too much glue on, okay? So I recommend using a paintbrush and not doing this, because more is gonna come out than you want and you're gonna have to get rid of the excess and it's gonna be annoying. So I squirt out. Yeah. We're not above a squirting joke here. Let's move on. All right, so I'm gonna do a little edge there. So that's my mark. I'm gonna put. Wait, let's see. Let's think this through, Sarah. So I'm gonna leave an edge, is what I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna put glue on one edge. All right. And you know what? Hold on. I'm actually gonna cut the holes first, okay? It's actually gonna help me, and it's easier to cut with nothing else on the chipboard. So just bear with me. I'm gonna cut this in the machine. Beautiful. All right. So now that's gonna make this a lot easier just to have those done already. So now I kind of have an idea. You could even draw a line here if you wanted to be perfectly straight. You can get in here and just like do a line. You can use a T-square. I mean, that might not even be perfect, but I just want to give myself a guide. All right, so actually this is pretty straight. Okay. I'm gonna take the glue, get it on my paintbrush, and just start spreading it out. All right. You can actually get your paintbrush a little bit wet, but you don't want the paper to get too wet, okay? So you are going to use, you know, quite a bit of this on this side because you want to get it all over. Now, keep in mind, I am not a professional bookbinder. I don't do this a lot. I'm new to it, so there may be way better techniques than what I'm doing, okay? But you're going to use this same technique for like a handmade notebook without using the machine. So, you know, I'll just spread it out. Again, I don't want it to be too thick. Make sure you get, because you don't want puckers, you don't want little bumps and stuff, so that's why I want to get coverage all over the thing. Hopefully I'm not screwing this up I might have wanted to get it a little bit wet. I don't know. We'll see. We will see. Did I screw this up or not? I have a little paper towel here. All right, let's go for it. In fact, I'm going to put a little bit more right along here, because I really do want the edge to stay down. Okay. All right, I'm gonna take my straightest edge just so it's easier to, if I put ribbon on it. You could also just leave it like this if you wanted to, but I'm gonna put ribbon over this. And then some people put, and you can just spread it out. And if you want, you can also really get it in there with a roller or like one of these thingies. You know, you can do that. Get out any air bubbles, any wrinkles. And now, so you can see it's like kind of curving already from the glue. We're gonna work on fixing that a little bit. Now you wanna cut the 45-degree angle. All right, and you want it to be a little bit past, I almost went a little too close there, a little bit past the corner, Okay, and okay, so now you're gonna fold these edges over like this and glue those edges. So give myself another little squirt. No. Why, Sarah? Why? Okay. It's okay if there's a little excess on, like, in this direction, because we're going to cover that with something. Okay. All right, so now let's fold this over. Do it as tight and as straight as you can. Okay. Okay, now I'm kind of like bending it a little bit just to try and get it straight, but you could also let this completely dry underneath a flat book, which is honestly what I would recommend, because the glue is a little bit wet and it's water-based, so it might buckle a little. Now these corners, I know there's a method because I follow this lady who does bookbinding and she rounds the corners really well, but I can't find the account. You know, you follow somebody and you forget to like bookmark it or favorite it, so you can't find it anymore. I can't find her. The algorithm won't show me. I don't know what the name of the account is, but she makes like really pretty rounded edges with this tool on her bookbinding. I'm just trying to get the corner over a little bit. See, and it makes it just slightly curved. And I put a little bit of glue there to kind of make it stay. It will dry clear. You might have to futz with it. Yeah, okay. So that makes it look a little bit neater. All right, so that's really pretty. You could just leave this like this if you wanted. So now we've got our two covers. I'm going to put some ribbon over this, but first I'm going to put some paper. I'm going to cover this part with paper so it makes it look nice and neat. Now you could use the paper cutter here, but I'm going to be lazy. But I am going to mark it with a pencil because I don't want to. So I'm leaving a little bit of a margin there, and then eyeball it, and I'm going to cut across here. If it has a pattern, it might be easier to just hand cut it straight. And getting out the paper cutter. It's a little bit uneven, but that's okay. And then I'm going to mark here. Put my straight edge on that side. So now I'm going to glue the paper down. I recommend actually getting the glue on the paper itself, because then you won't get any extra goopiness where it would be visible. So I'm just gonna you really need to make sure you get the edges, because you don't want it to peel up off of the cover. I'm sure that there's a glue stick that would be good for this too. Ooh, don't bend it. But I'm just going to stick with the glue I already had out. And because I know this is also acid free, which I think is supposedly very good for books and archival stuff, so it won't yellow over time. All right, so I've got my paper. And I'm just going to try to make it look as even as I can. You can reposition it. Looks pretty good. It's a little of an uneven cut there, but that's okay. We could make this the back cover if we wanted to. We'll see which one looks better in the end. And I roll it. You really want this flattened out. I can see how it's kind of coming up here, so I'm just gonna go in with a little, I'm gonna peel it up very gently and make sure I get a good amount of glue right there on the edge so it adheres. Okay, so now you've got your covers mostly done. I'm gonna put some ribbon on here. You could leave it like this, but I wanna make it look really neat. All right, so I've got this brown ribbon. That's really pretty. Wait, let's look at the front. This is some thrift store find. Ooh, I like that. Let's do the brown. The brown it is. I'm just gonna cut a length. You might want to measure it before cutting. I almost spilled the water everywhere. Okay. All right. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of first do a rough measure, and then I'll trim it to perfection later. Okay. So I'm gonna glue just this piece on the back first, because what I want to be able to do is pull it taut on the other side really nicely. So same glue. I'm actually going to use a smaller paintbrush for this because I don't want it to go everywhere. Okay. So let's just do that and see how it sticks. Ooh, pretty. I'll dry clear. Try to get it as straight as possible. And then I'm gonna dab a little bit on the edge here. And then, okay. Whoa. Fuck. Make sure it's straight. As straight as you can get it. Keep your fingers clean as possible during this, because just little bits of glue can make it look messy. All right, now gently turn it over. Okay, and this will give you a nice taut. You can let this dry a little bit too if you want it to be nice and taut here, but I think it'll be fine to do it right here. All right, I'm glad I thought of this method with the ribbon, because it really is, like I said, it's much easier to do this with that bare chipboard and not have fabric on it, because it was hard to punch. It looked messy with little strings going everywhere. It wasn't as smooth in the binding. So yeah, I'm sure other people have done it, but I feel proud of myself for figuring that out. A lot of times, I don't know if you're like this, but a lot of times when I'm doing a craft, I almost resist looking up videos because I have, false confidence in myself that I can do it. I could do that. When you're shopping and you're like, I could make that. I think I might have said this before. I think that'd be a great name for like a gift shop of handmade items. Like, I could totally make that. So this is the front. So just get it as straight as you can. It might be a little bit off. That's so pretty. God dang. And this is just found stuff. This is all thrift store stuff, except for some of the stuff. Except for half of it. Okay. Whoop. All right. Now I've got some excess there, but that's okay. Just try to clean it up as best you can. Now I've got this overlapped there so I can get it exactly the tightness I want. And then I'm just going to trim it. I'm going to leave that actually and glue it. I'm going to cut a diagonal so that it won't fray as much. But you could put like you could make this look neat with another little piece of cardstock and cover that seam if you wanted, but I think that's fine. You could also like hide it at the top. I don't want to overthink this. I'm going to give it a little glue so it won't fray. Okay, that is beautiful. All right, let's do the other one real quick. Okay, wow. A little bit crooked there, but this one, I would, you know, pick the one that you think looks best for your front. Now, what I would do, I almost thought I did it backwards. No, I didn't. What I would do is let this completely dry. Okay, there's still wet glue in there. Let it completely dry before binding. Under a flat, really heavy book, so that it dries completely flat. Because what happened with my prototype is that you'll see it. See how it's like kind of stuck open? It bowed a little bit. And you could get like a binding, you can put 2 pieces of wood and clamp it down and get it to, you know, undo that. But I just say let this dry completely flat first and see if that does the trick for you. Because that way it doesn't start to curve and bend. So now for the fun part, we're gonna bind. Will it bind? Ooh, so pretty. All right. Back to the machine. All right, so here's how we bind it on this machine. It's super easy, but it does take a couple tries to get used to what happens up here. I'm gonna move this up here. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do is measure my thickness. You get one of these machines. The spacing of the holes is 3 holes per inch. That's called 3-to-1 pitch. So any coil that also follows that same spacing will work. You can get different brands. Any wire O is what it's called. So this is a 1/2 inch, okay? So that means you don't want your entire notebook to be more than a 1/2 inch or this will be too small, all right? So let's take a measure. This, I might have actually cut too much paper. Oh yeah, this is gonna be pretty. Okay. So let's measure it. It is just a touch more than 1/2 inch. So I'm actually going to just be safe because it won't lay flat and open the way you want if you have too much. So I'm gonna get rid of some of this. All right, let's see how this measures. All right, now let's measure again. Ooh, this paper got ripped, so you're out. That's easy. All right. I think we're probably good, but let me measure with whatever I've got around. Okay, that's gonna be less than 1/2 inch. So now we're going to put it on the coil. It's not rocket science. It's like actually more basic than like done by hand than you think with this machine. I was like, oh, that's it. It's that simple. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna take this and you're going to, on the parts with the closed end, the wider end of these little notches, you're going to space them out on here. I think it's like 3 between each nook, these hooks. You're gonna hook it on there. Now you've got all these sticking up. I find this is really easy, way easier to do if I do it on the edge of the table and it's like hanging off, because then your stuff hangs down and that gravity really helps. So the trick here is you don't put it on like this, okay? You're actually going to put all your papers on first, okay? And you wanna know which is your front and which is your back, okay? This, let's see, I think this is my front. Let's see, which one do I want? hard to decide. I think I want this to be the front. So I'm gonna just set this here to remind me that's my front and that's the way it's gonna face. Okay, so I'm gonna put, you might not be able to do all your papers at once, but you just slide it on. See? Ooh, very nice. Now I go ahead at this point and I'm gonna clip off the excess binding, but just by gently lifting this up. I'm actually just gonna get a preliminary cut and then I'll neaten it up later. So get rid of that. Okay, so now I've got that on there. Oh wait. One last thing. If you want to have your pages in a specific order or like shuffle them, I actually don't like this green anymore. Well, it's fine. Oh, I'm so picky. Okay. Shuffle, I like to like have a variety out. Like think about what page do I want first? Every time I open the notebook, do I want to feel... And someone was like, oh, perfect clean new notebook gets ruined the moment you write in it. No, you leave the front page blank. So it always feels like a new notebook when you open it. I'm gonna shuffle these up a little. And then you just, whatever order you want them in. Now we're gonna put them on. Starting with the back. Okay, this is the back of the book. Beautiful. Let's see. You know you've done a good job cutting when you can get a lot of pieces on at once. Beautiful. And beautiful. Now, this is my front. I'm actually going to put the front on here, okay? Just like that. And then I'm going to take the back cover and I'm going to put it facing down. Like, so see? That's how it's going to open. So now... everything's aligned. Now you're going to gently lift this up. You're going to make sure that this setting right here, if you have this machine, is the proper one. So I'm going to go a little under 1/2 inch because that's about how wide this is. It's better to go too big at first because if you go too small, it might not open properly. So I'm going to stick it in, and then just gently press it. I'm not going to go crazy because I want to see, did it bind? All right, it's a little bit open, so I want to press harder. Down further. Get it nice and whoop. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a notebook. The only thing I'm going to do is secure the like end. I'm just going to like, let's see. I'm going to cut right here so that it's hidden. There you go. And how does it look on the bottom? Looks great. So beautiful. Oh my God, it's like, if this is how good it's already getting on my 5th attempt. I mean, look at this. I love this. You got your IBM things to do. You got your vertical stripes. You got all your different pages for your different patterns and thoughts and inspiration and creativity. And it opens nice. It goes all the way around. That is satisfying as hell. Hell yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to show you how to do it the really homemade way if you have no other tools. We're going to do it real quick because I have a meeting I have to do. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a handmade, no machines necessary except a few hand tools that are easy to get, very cheap. We're going to make a small notebook. I found these coasters at a thrift store for $1. They're in plastic right now. National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. That's kind of sad, but we're going to cover that part up. Let's get these out. I thought they would make a cute cover for a notebook. I hope I can punch through here. We'll find out. But wouldn't that be cute for a little tiny notebook? Let's make it. Okay, quickly. What you're going to do first, the trick with this is going to be hand punching the holes in a neat and tidy manner. That's the hardest challenge with this, okay? So that's why measuring and things like that are going to become important. But first, what I'm going to do is find some paper that I'm going to do. So I'm going to put that there, remove this. I'm going to move this up a little more than a quarter of an inch so that the paper is in fact smaller than my cover. All right. Okay, so I'm just gonna put some papers in here. We're gonna do a quick and dirty. Quick and dirty. Why is that? Why is it dirty? It's not dirty. It's just sloppy. I guess that's what they mean when they say that. Yes, I'm gonna say yes. This is, you know, that's a I'm kind of embodying the spirit of a very, very funny comedian, Brody Stevens, who sadly passed away a few years ago. But he would go, yes, all the time. And I'm honoring him with that. He was a powerful force in the comedy community and very beloved. So it was extremely sad when he left this earth. All right, so I'm gonna get some papers cut. So now I wanna make sure the other side, so that's my width. No, hold on. Sarah, get it together. That's my width. So my height is going to be exactly the height of the bird. So I'm going to move this. Oh, that's perfect. All right, it's not, I couldn't tell if this was exactly square or not, so I just want to get it exactly lined up so that the pages aren't bigger than the notebook. Ooh, a little bit of a thick stack. So when you cut too thick, you can risk it being a little crooked because you're going to lose your grip. So just be careful with that. This is going to be pretty. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Time check. Ooh, I'm going to run out of time. 7 minutes. That's not gonna be enough time. Okay, we're gonna have to push pause. So what you're gonna use to punch the holes is your basic handheld hole punch. Now I'm using one that has a smaller hole. It's probably an 1/8 of an inch diameter. You can get this at any craft store or order it online. You can use a full-size hole, but it will be kind of loose. Look, it just, I don't think it's what you want. You want to use a smaller hole on this, all right? The smaller the hole, the better. Okay. All right, so the method I came up with is I've got a piece of cardstock, okay? This is basically a stencil that I'm making, okay? I'm gonna cut this again. Okay, that's actually the perfect width. Make sure this cut is straight because you're going to be lining it up. Now this cardstock is perfect, just so happens to be a little grid. I use the grid as my guide for drawing my holes or punching my holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this and see, you know, generally where do I want my holes to be. Okay. Line it up so you know exactly where you're lining things up. So I'm only going about an 1/8 of an inch in, okay? And I'm going to just manually draw holes here. Line it up as close as you can into that square where you've drawn your circles. You could use like a ruler to like draw 2 lines, get your circles really lined up. You want them to be as lined up as possible. Now you've got your holes. They look pretty straight, but they're not perfect, but that's okay. Hello. Welcome back. I obviously had to take a break. It's the following day. The day got away from me. I need to learn time management, and I had my meeting, and then it was my dad's birthday, and we went out to eat. So, outfit change. So where we were beginning we made this stencil for chopping holes in our paper. Now the key here, because this is almost square but not quite the way I did my cover, so I'm just going to make sure that I've got the orientation correct. So what I do is I line it up and draw my circles in here. Okay, I'll try to get a little better position here. So I'm just going to use that stencil to create my marks for where I'm going to punch. This is just to give, if you use this same thing, it gives you consistency amongst all the papers. Okay, so I've got a little stack here. Now I found it's very helpful to use our clips to keep the papers from moving all around while we're punching, okay? This really helps keep them aligned, okay? Just a little trick that I figured out on my own. All right, so the way I do it is I just make sure that my punch is right where I drew the hole, as close as possible. Don't get willy-nilly, because again, if you don't have these lined up, it's just gonna it will work, but it just will look sloppier, and it'll be harder to thread the coil through it. Just going along. All right, so I'm gonna line these up with my other ones just to see that they look good to me. Yep, I got light. I can see the light. I don't know if you can see like my finger skin through there. Anyway, it's snowing here now today. It's a cozy day inside. I woke up at the middle of the night though. Couldn't sleep, so I looked at my phone, as one does. Great idea. And for some reason, I landed on the Joann's Reddit page. And man, just reiterating what I was saying earlier, these people are going through so much hell right now. I just can't believe how rude people are to people working retail. Like, I understand that sometimes you get into a store and the person could not be bothered. Like, you're dealing with someone who's having a really bad day and they're a little cold to you and you feel entitled to customer service. But like, I just try to have empathy for basically everyone. I mean, yes, I try to have empathy for everyone. And I usually don't have a problem finding that empathy. But even when someone is being, kind of rude to me, unless they're like straight up like yelling at me, then I fight back. No. I usually just run away and cry. Oh wait, yeah. Okay, so we've got another line. So yeah, I was reading just like how customers are treating the employees right now. The employees don't know anything. This is actually good for me to hear. Don't ask if a store is going out of business. Don't ask the checkout clerk what's going on. When are you closing? When are the big discounts coming? Are they offering you? Like, they don't know anything. When this kind of stuff happens, management, like the higher ups at the company, disappear. They really leave people out in the cold usually. I'm not talking about like an individual store manager. I'm talking about like corporate, and they're doing all these court filings. In fact, it might have updated. They were finding out if maybe they were going to shut down everything. All the stores today, but I haven't checked that yet. But yeah, so compassion is needed, and I'm a little. Oh, one thing I saw on the Joann's message board was, they were talking about entitled shoppers and customers, and one of the persons said they work a craft show, and that she was just like amazed at how some women would just be so rude and like come up and be like, I'll give you $50 for that handmade queen size quilt. $50 for something that probably took this person 80 hours to make, if not more. And it really got me thinking about pricing. And like, I've always struggled with like, what should I price my items? Because people always say, don't undervalue yourself. People will pay for things, but I also want my items to be accessible. So I try to figure out the math, and I try to make sure I'm at least making minimum wage. But on some things, if I even just paid myself minimum wage, I would have to charge like $800 for something. And that is, you know, a lesson for me to figure out, you know, what is my time worth, and not, you know, because I did this, I did these orders last summer of these, I'll show you at some point on this show, these like light up marquee signs, and they were custom made. So you could get whatever you'd said, and it looked like a mini kind of marquee sign with the little bulbs. And I made it like miniature, and they took forever to make. And when I posted the listing, I was so excited because it was like my first kind of big ticket item. I was charging like $140 to $200, depending on the size of the sign, the amount of letters. And I did sell, you know, maybe 15 or 20 of them. But what ended up happening is, so I always think, you know, when I'm making a new item, I'm like, well, from my murder board experience, if I get a lot of orders, I know I can streamline this process and make it an assembly line, and it won't take as long as the first one I made, the prototype. But with these signs, I didn't anticipate, I just didn't think it through, that the work was tedious and slow, and there was no way to speed it up. And honestly, like, I even tried to get some people to help me, like Scott and some other, a friend, like I paid her to come over and help for a little while, and it wasn't something they could do quickly. And in fact, it was kind of like whatever the skills were needed were just so precise and specific that it was better for me to do it anyway. So there was no way to speed it up. And I had like so many overdue orders. Etsy was like sending me messages like, you know, you're not shipping on time. This is going to affect your, you know, your shop, and we're going to take action. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like panicking. And so that was a mistake. And those signs were worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars if you calculated how much time I had to spend on each one. So that was a big lesson for me on when I'm making a new item to sell. I really need to figure out how long does it take and what can I streamline, and just try to figure out the price. So like for the index cards, at first, each pack I was selling, you know, I surveyed some friends and family, like, what would you pay for this? And I asked people that I knew would like the item, like that would be my ideal customer. And a lot of people were like, no, because at first I was only going to charge like $7 a pack, and multiple people were like, absolutely not, you should be charging like $25 or, you know, $20 for this. That's what I would pay. And I'm like, I don't know, index cards, like you can get a pack of like plain ones for like $2 for like 1,000 of them. But they explain, you know, no, this is something special and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, okay. So I ended up pricing them $19 for a pack of 60 curated handmade index cards, okay? And that seemed fair to me, given the time it takes to source the materials, to build the decks, to cut, you know, to all of it. And I haven't sold that many. So I was wondering, is this just an item that people don't want? Did I miss the mark on this? Because this is something, if I saw these at a, you know, somewhere, I would buy these, okay? Or is it that people just aren't buying stuff right now? Like, I didn't know. I've only sold like, I want to say like 5 packs, and I had maybe 20 listed, 25. So, you know, I started worrying like, what's going on here? And I thought maybe I overpriced them. So yesterday or the day before, I lowered the price to $14 a pack just to see what would happen. I didn't even announce it. I'm just gonna like, you know, just see what happens as I go forward. But reading that thread last night made me nervous about the craft show. Am I gonna get ladies being like, what? $14? Like, I don't know. I need to mentally prepare, like, because I don't have experience with customer service and retail and haggling and stuff like that. Like, if somebody came up to the table and was like, hey, I want 10 of these, would you give me a deal? Of course. But if you're just walking up and going like, would you take $7? You know, would you take $2? Like, if they're being insulting, then, you know, I need to prepare myself for bitches, is what I'm saying. For these suburban bitches. Cricut aesthetic is going to be high at this thing, I'm guessing. And that comes with a certain personality type. So I'm going to need to really prepare myself for, like, what am I going to say if someone, you know, if someone like makes a comment. I should probably have a good comeback. Nothing mean, but just clever. Because that actually might end up making them laugh and then relieve the tension. Okay, I have punched what I think will be enough, and I'm so proud of myself because I can see light. I can see the light through the holes of that many pages, hand punched. Because so this was one of the smaller sample I made, and I really messed it up. But by the way, I wanted to show you, this is the teeny tiny version. And it was just a test. I used, for the cover, and it's a really great cover material, I used some matte board. I don't know what you would call this. Maybe Bristol board, matte board. It's the stuff they use for framing pictures, the matte that goes in the picture frame. And I found this, like some discounted sheets of this. And I just had it. You know, I don't know what I thought I was going to use it for, but I was like, oh, it's like 10 cents. I'll get it. But this makes a great notebook cover. It's the perfect thickness, and it looks nice. So I recommend, if you don't want to do like covering with cloth or you don't have anything special, just use some matte board. It's fairly inexpensive and you can get it. I would recommend not using a paper cutter because it's a little bit too thick for it, and it comes out a little jagged. So what I would use is a very sharp either utility knife or X-Acto knife to, you know, just do a couple scores and keep cutting to get a really smooth cut to your size. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is put a cover on these, and I think I'm just gonna use just some paper that I have here. How about the arrows? I like the arrows. Let's do those. Okay. Now I'm just gonna draw. I'm gonna draw around. In fact, you know what? To be exact, you might want to just use an X-Acto knife along this, which I think is what I'm gonna do. So we've got these. I'm gonna glue them on to my cover. Ooh, there's dried glue. Ooh, I love dried glue because that means you get to, say it with me, peel it. Okay. Ooh, this goes on nice and smooth on this coaster because it's like got kind of a sheen. So I can do it real thin. Okay, here we go. Whoop, repositionable. I'm gonna trim that off. This is a dull blade. This is what I'm realizing. I'm gonna use, actually this is a actual surgical knife that my brother-in-law gave me. He's a biomedical engineer and he gave me all these like fancy surgical scissors and from work. It's like, yes, this is, gives you that precise, you can cut right into somebody. I could do emergency surgery in this craft room if I needed to. Here's the operating table. I'm ready for Civil War, guys. All right, now I've got my covers. And I'm gonna cut my holes, punch my holes. Start again with my circle drawings. Oh, I was gonna use the paper. Good call. Okay, line it up. There you go. Okay. Let's punch it. Punch it up. Takes a little bit of pressure. I mean, I know, so now we're going to bind it. So the way I'm going to do this, now you could get a spiral bound notebook, a regular one, like the spiral kind, not this kind that has like the 2 wires close together. You want a regular spiral notebook, all right? You can just untwist that out of the notebook by, you can clip the, you can either straighten that out, but I would say just clip it with some wire cutters or scissors, like clip here, and then you can unspool that from the notebook and reuse it. So if you have an old notebook that you're getting rid of, or just gonna file away, you could reuse the spiral from that notebook. But we're gonna make our own wire for this using some wire that I have. You can get gold wire. I usually find this wire in the jewelry section of the craft store, and they have different thicknesses. I don't know what gauge this is, but it's nice and bendy on the thicker side, so you can so it doesn't get, it holds its shape better. So I'm gonna cut a good length because I'm not sure what I'm gonna need. And it's important to get a whole, you're gonna wrap it around a round object of some kind. You're gonna coil it around there. Is this uniform? Yeah, let's try this. It might be too big, but we can see how it looks. So what I do is I just start, I kind of coil it generally the distance. You can start out tight with your coil and then spread it out. Doing it pretty close. You know, doing it this way, it's gonna make it look a little more funky. I would say like whimsy goth. Do you know what whimsy goth is? Look it up, it's funny. It'll look more quirky, which you may want. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm just gonna go around a couple more times. Okay, so now I have this coil, all right? I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna cut it on the curve. You want your end not to be like, see how that's straight? You want your end to be on the curve because that's gonna help you coil it in. This is surprisingly easy. I never realized this until I tried it. Like, oh, this is totally doable. The key is getting it through all your holes that you've hand punched. Now I can see the papers are nice and aligned, but my coaster is a little off, so I'm trying to line it up. Now I'm not gonna clip these because I might have to like manually get this in. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your coil and start threading it through the first hole. Oh yes, it went right through. So satisfying. Yes. But then the second hole, can we do it? You might have to like stretch your coil out a little bit to get it the correct distance. Now I see how I'm like loosening it up a little. That's so I can, oh, it's working. Oh my gosh, this is satisfying as hell. Look at that, it's going in. And it's just like doing it. Oh my God, this is great. Oh yeah. But we're doing it, guys. It's happening. Now I probably could have done a smaller coil on this, but the key is you want the book to open and lay flat. And that's where, you know, you might need a bigger coil than you think you're gonna need. So just play with different sizes. You could coil this wire smaller and start over. If you're doing a small notebook, it's fine to make, you know, several versions, several attempts. Okay, last hole. Final coil. All right, come on, baby. You got this. Get in there. Ah! Oh my gosh. That is adorable. All right, hold on. Now, what I'm gonna do is you need to keep it from coming loose. So what you need to do is clip it like there, and then you're gonna take some pliers if you have, like this, and just create a little notch so that it won't come loose. See how I did that? You can look at a regular spiral notebook and see, like, mimic what it does, like a industrial made one. Okay. Oh my gosh. Look. Oh, it ended up working. Ah. Yes, I thought that was going to be backwards, but it's fine. Oh my God. Look how cute this is. Now, because I hand coiled it, it's not totally aligned, but you could kind of mess with the coil a little bit to give it the alignment you want. Just like push it and squeeze it a little. That made it a little bit better, but when you open it, just like any other spiral notebook, it kind of like becomes uneven. But look how cute that is. That is so cute. You can totally do this without a machine. And I kind of like the homemade look of it. That is so cute. 2 coasters, scrap paper, and some wire, and a hole punch. And you've got yourself a homemade notebook. Please make one and show me. Send me a picture of what you've made, even if it has nothing to do with what I'm teaching. I'd love to see your crafting. And email me at craftingthroughit@gmail.com. And I will be selling some of the notebooks I'm going to make and see how it goes. Okay. Yay! Also, how much should I charge for one of these? How much would you pay for this? Let me know. Sound off in the comments. Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next week. Yay!